Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava ki jai. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, middle of the week. What do they call it? Hump day? So, who remembers who's currently talking in the Srimad Bhagavatam? Who said that? Narada, yeah, right? Yes, Narada. So Narada is describing what happened, right? His adventure after his journey after his mother passed away, what he did. So we're going to read a few verses, starting with 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 14. Narada continues. Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. I think most of us can relate to that at some point when we're traveling, right? Especially when we go overseas, long distance. Text 15. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls. Text 16. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. In this purport, Prabhupada says that Narada Muni reached Bhava, and the indication of that is the tears coming from his eyes in separation from Krishna. So Bhava is the stage, how does Prabhupada say it? Just beneath the prior stage of unalloyed love of God, like the top pinnacle prema, right? So Bhava's right under there. And Prabhupada comments that Narada reached it at a very quick rate. Tears from the eyes of a devotee is an automatic reaction. Because Sri Narada in his previous births attained that stage very quickly, after his departure from home, it was quite possible for him to perceive the actual presence of the Lord, which he tangibly experienced by his developed spiritual senses without material tinge. Okay, and then text 17. O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness. So we just, in the other purport, Prabhupada saying, oh, he's crying in separation, and he's also feeling, right? He's also feeling happy, overpowered by feelings of happiness. Every part of my body became separately enlivened. And in this sense, it means every sense of the body, like sight, hearing, touch, they all wanted to, Prabhupada explains in that purport, that they all wanted to separately connect with Krishna, enlivened to serve the Lord. They're separately enlivened, like, okay, they're running amok, but in a transcendental way, right? Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. So the Lord appeared here. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. So in his mind's eye, right, his eyes are probably closed, physical eyes are probably closed. In his mind's eye, the Lord appeared and then suddenly vanished. That form that he was feeling that love for, gone. And so let me read that, text 18. I'll read the translation, then we'll sing the verse for this. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Okay, what is incongruity? Disjointed? Disjunct. I'm not sure what that means. Dysfunctional? Okay. So when something is incongruity, what does it mean? Alignment, right? So incongruities. So the mental incongruities, things are not lining up. They're in all different directions, right? Rehat, did you look it up?
Incongruous means not in harmony or keeping with the surroundings.
Right. So it satisfies the mind's desire. It once erases all of that not in harmony stuff, all that mental incongruity. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. So let's do the Sanskrit. Rupam Bhagavato Yatan Manakantam Shuchapaham Apasyan Sahasotaste Vaiklavya Durmana Iva. Durmana means lost the desirable, lost that which we want. Rupam Bhagavato Yatan Manakantam Shuchapaham Apasyan Sahasotaste Vaiklavya Durmana Iva. Please chant. Okay, thank you. So let's do word for word together. Rupam, form, Bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead, Yat, as is, Tat, that, mana of the mind, kantam, as it desires, shucha apaham, vanishing all disparity, apashyan, without seeing, sahasa, all of a sudden, utaste, got up, vaiklavyat, being perturbed, durmana, having lost the desirable, eva, as it were. Translation again. Let's read this together. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. Purport. That the Lord is not formless is experienced by Narada Muni, but his form is completely different from all forms of our material experience. For the whole duration of our life, we go see different forms in the material world, but none of them is just apt to satisfy the mind, nor can any one of them banish all perturbance of the mind. So we're always going to see different forms of the material creation, but they don't ever satisfy us. These are the special features of the transcendental form of the Lord, and one who has once seen that form is not satisfied with anything else. No form in the material world can any longer satisfy the seer. That the Lord is formless or impersonal means that he has nothing like a material form and is not like any material personality. Do you remember Rupa Goswami's warning? He says, if you go one time, right, to the, he says it in the reverse. He says, don't go, it's like a warning, don't go to the banks of the Yamuna where Krishna is playing his flute if you still have attachment for this world, right? And so the same thing in this purport. Once you've seen that, you're not going to be happy here. And so it's kind of like, are you willing to let that go? Because you're going to have a higher taste. As spiritual beings having eternal relations with that transcendental form of the Lord, we are, life after life, searching after that form of the Lord, and we are not satisfied by any other form of material appeasement. Narada Muni got a glimpse of this, but having not seen it again, he became perturbed and stood up all of a sudden to search it out. What we desire life after life was obtained by Narada Muni, and losing sight of him again was certainly a great shock for him. Wow. So what we desire life after life was obtained by Narada Muni. And then he had it and that's gone, right? Imagine that. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Have you ever seen a toddler who is inconsolable? Like a little child who's having a tantrum, maybe in a Walmart or something, right? And the parents trying everything, this, and the kids just, that's it. They can't be consoled no matter what the parent tries. So that image came to mind to me when I was thinking, this last paragraph here, when Prabhupada says, we're trying, searching, having eternal relations with that transcendental form of the Lord. We are, life after life, searching after that form of the Lord, and we are not satisfied by any other form of material appeasement. Just like a toddler is not satisfied by anything else but the one thing they wanted, right? You can give them this and give them that, like, oh, come on over here. Try to distract them, like, no. So similarly, in our sojourn in this world, we keep, thinking, okay, this, maybe that, trying to appease. I like that word here. Material appeasement. We're trying to appease that vacuum in our heart, that longing, that deep missing place, but it doesn't fully get appeased. It doesn't get even close to being fully appeased. So temporarily we might feel, okay, I have my house and my things and I feel pretty appeased, right? And short term. But the thing is, it doesn't appease for the long term. And that's one of the problems of the material existence, is it's temporary. And so if we want to solve the more lasting problem, then we have to look at what's going to really appease at a soul level, so that my mind is no longer jumping around in mental incongruity, right? Perturbance, that was another word. It will vanish. None of the forms of the world, Prabhupada says, can vanish the perturbance of the mind. Perturbance, like disturbance. Yeah. Yeah. So you can maybe look up that word as well. It's not a common word that we use. Mm-hmm.
A cause of disturbance or upset.
Okay, so the cause of the disturbance. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we, in other places in scripture, we also hear similar descriptions to someone who gained Krishna and then lost Krishna, right? You could say like Krishna appeared or in their mind or in person in front of them and then was gone again. So who can think of an example of that? Dhruva Maharaj, yes. He said, right, I was looking for broken pieces of glass and I found you the diamond. And then again, Vishnu left. And so that longing comes in the heart, right? When he lost what he was looking for. What else? Who else? Parikshit. Yes, Parikshit in the womb, right? So do you want to say? Okay, so when he was in the womb and then there was this Ashwatthama was aiming a weapon towards baby Parikshit in the womb, right? His mother was Uttara. And Krishna came to protect him in the womb. So he was unborn child. And he fell in love with that form of the Lord. And so then his whole life, what did he do? The rest of his life, it's described that he spent his life, what? Looking for again, right? Yeah, Sanskrit, right? What does it literally mean? Examiner, yeah, searching, right? Looking for that form that can again appease that real deep longing of the soul. Who else comes to mind? Yes, the gopis of Vrindavan. So they're dancing with Krishna and they're having such a wonderful time. Suddenly he's gone, right? And what do? Searching. And they went mad with this distress and they, transcendental madness. And they started to, what do? They were singing to the different, what were they doing? Do you remember?
If I'm correct, one of them was like singing to the tree.
Yeah.
And it's like, Krishna, it's you.
Yeah. There is a childhood song. Okay, so it went like something like this. Dear Kadamba, where is Krishna? And then, dear blueberries, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna now? And it has like had a really wistful feel to it, like where is Krishna? And all the gopis are searching. It's a beautiful song. So yeah, that happened to the gopis. And there's someone else 500 years ago that we hear descriptions of this happening to. If any of you have read Chaitanya Charitamrita, yeah.
Is it when Lord Chaitanya ran into the ocean?
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah, he did it multiple times, many places. So I was specifically thinking about the times. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is really long, right? And there's three main sections. The last section is the Antya Lila, the ending pastimes. And in that section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's descriptions where Krishna appeared. He's like over there in a tree, and Lord Chaitanya is running to go embrace him, and then vanish, right? And then Lord Chaitanya would become devastated. And yes, like running into the ocean, he was like constantly searching for Krishna and seeing him, and then running towards him, and then so it was this play between Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. So why does Krishna do that? Like seems kind of like he's creating some agony.
Because it increases the love of his devotees when there's separation.
Yeah. So it's creates that longing, right? Love grows when we have longing. We a saying, the heart grows fonder. What is that? Separation makes the heart grow fonder. So if we're constantly day in and day out with someone, we take it for granted. We can, not always, but we can become complacent. Same old, okay, they're always there. But suddenly separation, like let's say there's like two friends or two partners. One of them is stranded in an airport in some remote place. All of a sudden, we really want to be with that person, right? There's like some obstacle or something gets in the way. Some distress comes up, and then that increases our love for that person. So yeah, and that will be continued in the next few verses, that topic. But I was thinking it for us, because it's such a high, it's kind of a high elevated situation where Krishna appears and then disappears, right? So one way that we can relate to it is, I'm sure we've all been in a kirtan, right? Who here has been in a kirtan where you felt deeply connected to Krishna? Raise your hand. Okay, so everyone here, mostly everyone, I'm sure that there has been at least one kirtan where you felt something, right? Like some connection. So then the kirtan's over. Okay, kirtan's over. And it can be painful, right? When you're in that space, like, okay, life goes on, and and then it's sort of like losing, like, oh, and we remember that impression that was created, or that memory of that. Oh, I remember when I was so connected, or when I was in the holy dham, or when I was with this devotee, or different ways. So that gives impetus to want to find it again. So the topic for today's class is actually deity worship, which, although this didn't specifically talk about deity worship, it talked about the form of the Lord in his mind's eye, right? He had the form of the Lord appeared in his mind's eye. So for many of us in Kali Yuga, we usually don't have the ability to meditate to such a deep degree just within ourselves, so that we can actually be with the form of the Lord in our mind. We're very distractible, most people in Kali Yuga as a whole. We compared to previous ages, we're like hyper little chipmunks or something, like restless minds. So deity worship is the way that we can have that experience of the form of the Lord in front of us, and we can start to develop that loving connection, that personal relationship. So I have a trivia question, and those of you who already heard this, don't just shout it out, just like wait, but if you think you know it, raise your hand. So because I feel like Brahmatirtha Prabhu might have asked it here. Okay, so sometime in the next month, I'm going to be seeing the largest deity in the world. Does anybody know where that deity is? Have you heard it before? Okay, go for it.
Govardhan Hill?
Govardhan Hill, yes. Yes, you got it. So extra sweets for you. Yeah, so yeah, Govardhan Hill, the form of the Lord in the mountain, right? The Giriraj is non-different from Krishna. Very esoteric for some people. But when we go there, we experience that. There's a large form of the Lord that we can take shelter of. So that was just a trivia question. But I wanted just to discuss a little bit about deity worship. And when the devotees are so deep in bhava and so on, they actually don't require deities to have that connection with Krishna, right? And yet we find that all the Goswamis, almost all, not all of them, but many of them, majority of them, had some form of the Lord that they also worshipped, that they also cared for, and that they had an intimate relationship with, like a physical form, like a deity form of the Lord. So that shows something. Okay, so yes, at the most advanced levels, we don't require deity worship. Is for beginners, right? Kanishtas. We come to the temple, we see the deity, we can develop our love for Krishna. And yet, even the most advanced devotees had these wonderful relationships with their deities. So when we hear those stories, they're very touching. I don't know if you've heard stories of the Goswamis and how they got their deities, how the devotees. Also, when the Muslims started attacking India, there's amazing stories about the residents of Vrindavan hiding the various deities and doing these long treks, like the one particular deity, Radha Govinda, they took to Jaipur from Vrindavan. And it took, I think, several years, because they moved him so slowly to not be caught by the Muslim invaders. And they would just like put him in a wagon with hay or whatever, and they would disguise, they'd be like farmers just taking their, he would be Radha Govinda, or Govinda at the time, the Krishna deity, was just in all kinds of situations, like being grassroots movement, like the Underground Railroad when they in America, right? They were helping black slaves to go up north so they could be in free there, right? And so similarly with the deity, they're like, hey, we're trying to smuggle the deities across to Jaipur, where they knew that the king was a devotee of Krishna and would protect the deity from the Muslims. So there's some very moving stories about the love of the devotees for their deities and how they ended up different places. Even Radha Kalachandji in Dallas, right? It's a very ancient deity. And yeah, the stories of some of the deities in ISKCON as well, very personal. Radha Londonishvara, right? Prabhupada, the deities in London. Who has been to London? Who's been to London? Okay, only a couple, yeah. So the deities there is a very interesting story where the early devotees of London, they were trying to find deities because Prabhupada said, we want to have Radha Krishna deities here. And again, Prabhupada was trying to create a space for people to come and practically worship Radha and Krishna, right, with deities, to make it personal. And so he was asking, the devotees were going around asking, and they finally heard secondhand that this Hindu center, these people who had a Hindu center, they had some deities that they weren't using, like Radha Krishna deities. And so they went there to talk to them, and yeah, the owners of the deities, they said, yeah, we don't need them. Like you can ask your spiritual master, like if you're interested. So they went back to Prabhupada and said, we found these beautiful Radha Krishna deities, and come with us. So Prabhupada went with them to visit the house or the center with the deities, and was talking to the family who was in ownership of the deities. And he was spending like 30 to 40 minutes just chatting about this couple's children and their family and their relatives, asking questions about them and all their lives, completely ignoring ignoring the deities. And the man who was engaging in this discussion was saying, okay, don't you want to see the deities now? And Prabhupada was just kind of asking more questions about their life and just sort of like a tactic, right? So then, and then finally he said, come on, let me show you the deities. The man said, okay. So he lifted the little curtain or whatever, the towel. And Prabhupada said, oh yeah, okay. He wasn't showing any interest. He was just kind of going, okay. He said to one disciple, one was Tamal Krishnamurti, he said, okay, try lifting Radharani, just see how much she weighs. Okay. And he told another disciple, you try Krishna, like see how much Krishna weighs. And then let's see what. And the man kept asking, do you want them? Do you want the deities? Are you wanting them, right? So then he's just saying, hey, pick up the deities. And then devotee said, oh, she's not that heavy. They're not that heavy. So Prabhupada said, okay, let's go. And so the two devotees are holding the deities. And Prabhupada says, okay, let's go. And so now they're all walking out the door. This is a kidnapping of the deities of Radha Londonishwar. Okay, so then and then the Indian man was saying, he was from India. He was saying, wait, Swamiji, wait. And Prabhupada said, no, it's okay. They're not that heavy. We'll be okay. But we got it, basically. And then he directed them to the van. They put the deities in the van, and then Prabhupada said, drive. And then 1 or 2 blocks later, Prabhupada said, stop the car. And then he got out. He went around to the back of the car. He said, now let me see the deities. And then he bowed down. He actually started to chant the Brahma Samhita, right? Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And he said, Krishna has appeared. Krishna has appeared. So then he took that moment to really welcome the Lord. But before, Prabhupada was very expert at engaging also. He was from India, and he knew the culture of he was also in business before. He was a good businessman in his younger days. So he knew how to engage in a way that was just, to get what he needed in Krishna service.
I think it's amazing that they were building the temple there in London, and they had no plan for getting Radha Krishna deities, and they just had full faith that Krishna would arrange. And this was like weeks before the temple opening, right?
Oh, yes.
And somehow they just got this news, and they went there, and right before the temple opening, they found them.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, amazing timing. Yeah, and it's actually a beautiful story because Krishna, like in that situation, the deities were in some ways involuntarily gifted, right? Because they're kind of kidnapped. But in a sense, Prabhupada disconnected it from merchant, like a merchant experience. He said, okay, we'll take Radha and Krishna, we'll serve them, and that'll be the gift to this person, right? Because they wanted money, they were money oriented, but Prabhupada made it transcendental. So I'm not saying that we should all go kidnap deities, but in that particular story, it had a special flavor to it. Yes. Well, maybe Advaita, do you want to say the one about Kalachanji?
Deity in Dallas is over 500 years old. Prabhupada also, he was in a house of a very wealthy person also. It was used as a doorstep stop.
To prop a large door open. He was like standing there.
Yeah. So when Prabhupada saw that also, he arranged for that to be changed. Inappropriate situation, and it was taken and installed. Apparently, Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced. There's a history of how that deity ended up there in that house. But Mahaprabhu danced in front of
So Kalachanji is in Dallas, for those who haven't been there, but a lot of you have been to Dallas, right? Do you know which area, where he was from, which part of India? Yeah. So he also got rescued. Krishna got rescued. Yes.
I just wanted to mention there's only one devotee in London or in the world with the name Londoneshwara Das.
Oh, nice.
And he's not a Prabhupada disciple, second generation, but I just thought that was interesting. It's because the deity has such a unique name.
Yeah.
He was given that name also.
Oh, nice. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. There's Paris Ishvara and London Ishvara. So Ishvara means supreme or the Lord of, right? The Lord of London, the Lord of Paris. So his name is not fully Sanskrit, but it's a name of Krishna. Amazing, right? So we could have like Alachua Ishvara. It's just Krishna, wherever Krishna is, it can be the Ishvara of that place. So we see in these examples that one of the reasons for deity worship is to increase these loving relationships between the devotee and Krishna, right? How do we get the deities? How do we serve them? It deepens that longing and that connection to be with Krishna. So what are some other reasons why deity worship is so prominent in our community or in the spiritual tradition that we follow? Yes.
Because we see the deities as non-separate from the personality of Krishna himself.
Yeah, so that facilitates that personal relationship. And Prabhupada is described as nirvishesha shunyavadi, right? The one who removes impersonalism and voidism particularly in Western culture, but also now it's all over the world, is impersonalism, right? So deity worship is the total 180 of that. It's so much, for a lot of people, it's very comfortable to stay in that impersonal space with God because it's like less, because it's less personal, we can just kind of keep it abstract and it's safe. Like, oh, he's a light, or he's just a feeling, an energy, I feel good, right? There's no commitment. There's no personal relationship. Just like it would be easier to, I think sometimes when people are young, they can get infatuated with a person, right? Like a poster on their wall. Oh, this movie star or this thing. And they have this in their head, they have this relationship with this person that they like wish they could meet. And that, in a sense, is easier than the person who's actually married to the person who is the movie star, right? Because it stays theoretical. There's no commitment. There's no real knowing. It's just all fantasy. But as soon as we make it practical, okay, now I'm actually going to get to know someone. I'm actually going to get to know someone either for friendship or for relationship or whatever. Then suddenly it becomes practical. Like, do we connect? How do we serve each other? What do we do for each other, right? And then suddenly there are more responsibilities. It becomes less dreamy and more reality. And so that's what deity worship does, is it makes it personal. Like, now let me actually relate to Krishna as a person. And it can be very triggering for some people. There's actually many religions where they consider deity worship idol worship, right? They lump those together. They're different because there is one key difference between idol worship and deity worship. And it was mentioned in the previous purport of 17. Sorry, not 17, 15. If you want to just pull that purport up, you can just see. If you've wondered what the difference is. It doesn't say idol. Can you just go to the top of it? Yeah, right there. One should not meditate according to one's personal whims. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative sources of scriptures through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master, and by proper use of one's trained intelligence for meditating upon the supersoul dwelling within every living being. Okay, so you can pause out there. But the context here is meditation, but the same principle applies to deity worship. So the difference between idols and deities, idols, yeah, we create something. Maybe as a kid, if you ever made like a little mud person, or I don't know, something like a little Play-Doh, right? A little mud character, a little Play-Doh character. And then if you were to take that and go, okay, now I'm going to worship it, put garlands, do my whole thing, it wouldn't actually transform on a spiritual level, because it's not a bona fide representation of God. So the deity worship is bona fide, passed down through the lineage of disciplic succession and taught, in that way. So therefore it's different from idol worship. But superficially, many religions, like people who have practiced like Judaism or even I think Islam would be also as well. If they came into the temple, they would assume that right away, oh, idols, right? Idols, because it looks the same on the surface, but behind the story, behind the deities, it's very different. So yeah, so personalism and then relationships with devotees. What else? Why else is deity worship part of our path in Bhakti Yoga? Yes.
Our senses to be fully engaged.
Yeah.
All of our senses. Because without form, we can't really do that. We can't dress them, we can't bathe them, we can't feed them, we can't cook for something that is not a person.
Yeah, and
therefore we can't have prasadam.
Right, yeah, that's the reason we have prasadam. It allows opportunity to actually offer food tangibly to Krishna. So in the current body and mind we don't have the ability to, like they say, you can't see Krishna with his eyes. These eyes, you can't see Krishna, right? Like the mundane eyeball, that doesn't work, because Krishna is spiritual and this is a material. So, but we can see Krishna's deity form, and that's a way to now start to fall in love with the form of Krishna, because the deity form it's a very merciful form of Krishna to come into this world with material, you could say material, like it's created from material items like brass or wood or marble, right? But Krishna is fully present there in the deity, and that's so merciful. He comes there in a form that we can use these mundane hands, our ears, our different senses of this world to interact with the deity form, and thus to directly serve Krishna, right, through the deity. So yeah, and then another thing that's very helpful for is helping us to practice our regulated practice of service, sadhana. So that's also why deities are there, especially for beginners when we're all over the place and we need some structure. Here's the deities, and so now what do? We have to be. There's two things Prabhupada said are the most important when you do deity worship. Do you remember what those are? Cleanliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness, right? That cleanliness is a huge part of it. And the other one, punctuality, right? So if you think about punctuality, that really helps sadhana. Okay, I have to be at the temple at 4, I don't know what time 3:45 or something to start waking up the deities, or that, and all this thing. Those who worship deities regularly, they're very timed. Like their days are very scheduled. Yes. So it helps with that, with the mind to just stay peaceful and practice sadhana. And those who are not directly serving the deities, they can still come for the temple, like the arti time, and that's also punctual. So here I'm going to show up for Krishna, I'm going to show up for the deity, and I'm going to sing for the deity, I'm going to play drum for the deity, I'm going to dance for the deity of Krishna. So it allows opportunity to practice our sadhana. And then one other thing is that, well, we already talked about it, but it's just another way to say it is that it makes something very abstract more relatable. Because abstract, oh Krishna, like it's abstract, but like here's tangible, and it makes it practical. Like we can practice our offerings, our different things. So the Muslims, when they were trying to destroy the temples and the deities, they knew that at the heart of the bhakti yogis was this connection with their deities, and therefore they knew that if they destroy these deities, they're basically destroying, in a sense, you could say they're destroying the culture, and they're also hurting and like destroying the hearts of these people. It was very malicious because these devotees were so attached to their deities. So the Muslims knew that how important the deities were to this process of bhakti yoga, Vaishnavism. Okay, so but what about if we can't relate to deities? What about like some people, some devotees really, really, really connect with deities. Like that's their like way of connecting with Krishna, right? They really, like above all, they're just like want to do deity worship. From the day they join, they're just like, hey, I can't wait till I get second initiation. I just want to dress them and offer them food and all that. And others don't necessarily gravitate towards deities as much, right? So Prahlad Maharaj, he sings this song, and I'll sing it in the. So when I was growing up, there was a song, Mrigakshi Devi Dasi. She made this tune, okay? So, and if you know it, you can sing also. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmani Vedanam. Hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy names, forms, pastimes, something. It's been a while. Okay, so the English, I'll try to get the English too. But basically, that verse comes from Prahlad Maharaj, and he's like saying that there's so many different ways of connecting with Krishna, and Archanam is one of those 9 processes, deity worship. So don't despair if you can't fully relate, or you don't really. If that's not your main inspiration, that's okay. There's room for everyone in Krishna consciousness, and there's something for everyone. There's some way we connect to Krishna. So, Shravanam, right? What is Shravanam? Hearing, Kirtanam, chanting the glories, or even like reading the glories. Vishnu Smaranam, remembering, just remembering. Like that was what Narada was doing. He was remembering the Lord and like in his mind. Padasevanam, serving what? Of who? Krishna or the spiritual master or the devotees, right? Sometimes it's actually nice to even give someone an actual foot rub. Like it's it can be a little taboo sometimes in the Hare Krishna movement. But when we do, like when we worship the spiritual master, often we'll bathe their feet. Very much in the past, people would walk a lot and their feet would be sore. And so we can offer that with our friends, like, hey, can I give you a foot rub? That's literally serving the feet of a devotee, right? Padasevanam. Archanam, deity worship. Archanam, Vandanam, prayer, right? Prayer. Some people really connect through prayer, writing letters to Krishna, praying to Krishna. Just making that the center of their experience. I think that's probably a top one for me. I really, really, really connect to Krishna through prayer. And I think I've always been that way, actually, in this life. Vandanam, Dasyam, servitude. So just a general wanting to be of service, right? Being of service somehow. That's what all of you do when you're serving Krishna lunch. And then Dasyam, right? Dasi, Dasyam. And then Atmani Vedanam. Sakyam, friendship. Okay, how do you feel that shows up? Association, yeah. Yeah, association with devotees, friends with devotees, and also friendship with Krishna, right? My best friend in my heart, Krishna is my best friend. And so remembering I'm never alone, right? I'm not alone. So Krishna is my best friend. He's with me throughout time. And then Atma Nivedanam, right? So that's the ninth one. Atma Nivedanam. Atma means self. Nivedana means full surrender, right? Full surrender of the self to Krishna. And so that one's often one way that we can experience that in small amount is to do the prostrate ourselves, right, on the ground, prostrate ourselves to Krishna, and we start to feel that. Yes, I wanna fully give myself. So yeah, so choose the ones that you resonate with and focus on those, grow those, like make those, fan those, and don't worry if deity worship's not your top thing. There's other ways of connecting to the form of Krishna as well, right, in the mind, like in our mind, and also photos of Krishna, but paintings of Krishna. Right? We might have a particular painting that we really connect with, or a description of Krishna. Or some people, they record, these hypnotherapy guided visualizations. So some people, they record these visualizations where you get to see Krishna's form, and now you're seeing his golden dhoti, and now you're seeing his peacock feather and stuff like that. And so if that's maybe your auditory person, maybe you connect that way to the form of Krishna. And then another way is through chanting of the holy names. Right? That's another form of Krishna you can connect with. There is one, I forgot to bring the link, but there's one devotee named Krishna Prema Das from Italy. You know him, right? His music, he was like really in the 90s, his music was really amazing. Krishna Vision, he had these like old cassette tapes. And so there's on YouTube actually maybe you can search it on YouTube, Krishna Vision, and then put the word Deity after it. Krishna Vision Deity. So he made a song where he sings the names of all the deities around ISKCON, and then they put together all the pictures of the deities too. So that could be another audio visual way for you to connect. Yeah, that's it. So you can just go somewhere in the middle, just play it for a minute. This is probably Radha Damodar. Is there music? That's Radha Damodar and the Radha Damodar. Yeah. Gitanagari. So that's Philadelphia. So it's nice meditation. You can see the deities in different places. The pictures, and then his wife. I don't know if there's like. Oh, okay, that's myself. I was thinking I hear someone. His wife is actually a photographer, so she went around. I think early 2000s. They made this beautiful book, Deity Darshan. Has anyone seen that? The big black book, and that's the cover of this video. So she went around to all the temples and like with professional photography made the pictures. And so then they compiled this, and this is years ago, so the quality of the video might not be as it would be now, but the book is incredible, the pictures. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. And I'll just summarize what we talked about, and then we can wrap it up. So we talked about how this longing that Narada experienced increased his love, right? And Lord Chaitanya and the gopis and Dhruva Maharaj, there's this common theme in the scripture where the devotee will see Krishna and then lose him just to deepen that love. And then we talked about why is deity worship so important? So it increases the relationship between devotees and Krishna, helps us grow our love. It's personal, gives us a way to use our senses to connect with Krishna, helps us with our sadhana, regulated practice of bhakti yoga. And it just takes something that's very abstract and makes it real for us, relatable. And it's different from idol worship, right? It's different because it's bona fide process passed down all the way through disciplic succession. And who's at the top of the disciplic succession? Krishna, right? So it goes back all the way to Krishna. And then if you don't relate, don't despair, right? If you don't relate to deity worship, it's not your main thing. That's okay. There's so many other ways to connect to Krishna, and even other ways to connect to the form of Krishna, maybe through your ears or through writing or things like that. So there's something for everyone. Okay, any quick question or comment? Yes, Advaita Prabhu.
Thank you very much. By the way, for everybody in Bhakti House Library, there is a book, Darshan book, and in your free time you can take a pilgrimage all over the world and have darshan of all those wonderful deities. I did jog my memory a little bit about Kalachandji. He was in Jaipur. And it was
Oh.
also like the destiny of Govinda when the Mughals were coming.
Yeah.
It was kept away. And it was forgotten. It was kept as a doorstop in one of the shops.
Mm.
And then Prabhupada, Prabhupada disciple, a lady, I forget her name. Shrimati, yes. She kind of struck the deal with the shop owner.
She discovered the deity standing there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And then she informed Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said to bring it to America. So it was shipped to America, to New York.
Nice. And the first deities of Jagannath, there's a whole pastime of that, how Jagannath came to ISKCON, right? They also found the little, in a little shop, little trinkets, right? And Malati, and I think she was the first one who found. She brought one of them. She brought Balaram to show Prabhupada, look, a little. And then he said, "Oh, are there others? Are there, because there's Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra." And they thought maybe it was like a totem pole, like on the side, like totem pole pieces or something. But yeah, there's a whole pastime of how Jagannath came to ISKCON too. So there are, if we look out for them, if we read about them, we'll start to kindle this affection for the deities, because they are non-different from Krishna, and Krishna's current day pastimes can happen through the deities and our relationship with the deities. So yeah, thanks for sharing. Okay, one more comment.
I wonder still about the transcendental form, because from my eyes, the deities look like material forms.
Yeah.
So how can we understand that it's spiritual?
Ooh, that reminds me of when Prabhupada was in Atlanta. He said, if you see the deity as, it was a very heavy statement that he made. He said, if you see the deity as just brass, he will remain brass to you forever. And like all the devotees were like, goosebumps, right? Like, ah. So it's like when we, what happens is the salve of love, right? The salve of love, and we apply the love to our connection with the deities, and we pray for to experience them as real. Like, please, can you come? Can I start to see that you're not just a little doll standing there on the altar? That you're more. That you're actually Krishna, non-different. Then that's when it happens, like humility and service and prayer. Like, please help me. I'd like to go on to the next chapter where I see that you're non-different from Krishna. Yeah.
There's also an actual ceremony where Krishna is invited to come into the deity. So that's installation.
Right, yeah.
Or prana pratishtha, the invocation of Krishna to come to the deity. So
yeah.
There's uninstalled deities, and then when they're installed, that's when we approach the deity as Krishna, non-different. They are non-different.
Yeah.
Deity and Krishna are non-different.
Yeah, and that's why, we'll see like lists of things not to do in front of the deity, and it can feel really rigid and kind of like, oh, why is there so many rituals? But if you think it's a person, Krishna's there, like, do I really want to be chatting about my latest iPhone model while Krishna's standing there, right? And then we start to think, oh, let me be personal in that way. Let me remember Krishna's there. It's not just like a hotspot to meet people. It's like we're in a temple where Krishna's come. So, and same with our chanting, right? It's Krishna's actually there. So let me not just be too casual when I'm chanting. Yeah.
They actually talk about it. There's a wire, and then the wire is the means for which electricity can come through. There is electricity there, and it's the same with the deities. Like, if you know the process, it is Krishna.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a brass statue, though. If you understand the process, it is
right.
Krishna.
Yeah. Yes. And one final thing on that is that there's an analogy that if let's say I want to mail this, if I go to the side of the road and I just stick it in like a box and I just say, mail pickup, please, like it's just going to stay there, right, and dissolve and disintegrate. But if I put it into an authorized mailbox, then it gets sent to the person I want to send it to. And that's the analogy that's given. It's like the difference between just idol worship, like, oh, stick it in a box somewhere, versus like here's an actual bona fide process to connect directly to Krishna through the wire you said, direct process. So thank you so much everyone for sharing, and we can today reflect on this topic and see how it applies to our lives. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Oh, this is I guess not. When you end with a Y in Sanskrit, it carries the next stuff into the Y. Yeah, there's some stuff. What did you see your topic? Yeah, that was the best part. That's part for sure. It's so fun. Thanks for being able to go over it. You needed every second. Great. Yeah, that worked. It's like as soon as we put everything down, it was so fun. Oh, good. Yeah. It was crazy how literally with like no time for right? Yeah. But let know was really into the kirtan, so 10 extra minutes would have. Thanks very much. Oh, really? I like
And I'm doing it for the rest.
I love
We'll see. I think you'd be a great. Yeah, okay.
So Nate, I wanted to ask you and Adita about when we can do a proof. I can't